Hello Minecrafters, this is Diggeran and I'm going to do an exploration on the Pistons pushing tracks on top of other tracks bug found in 1.7.3. Here's a before and an after, and if you haven't heard of the bug before, basically what happens is the track gets pushed into the air, the tracks around it say, hey, there's a track there, I'm going to become a sloped track. And then the track in the air says, hey, I'm in the air. So it pops. And these guys just stay that way. So, I thought, well, it's certainly an interesting looking bug. So maybe there's some uses for it. Well, before I got started, first I looked for any irregularities. Seems pretty straightforward, although it seems that the north and the east tracks, north and east tracks have a tendency to not rise. And at first I thought it was only the ones that were on the original line of track, but it turns out that when I reoriented the track in order to go up towards the piston, the tracks alongside still didn't turn. So I'm thinking it has something to do with the orientation, both north and east, but also depending on where the piston is. It always seems to be one of the ones next to the piston, not across from it. And also one of the ones in the north and the east. Anyway, first thing I tried doing when I found this bug, and this was actually a suggestion from Tabby Rider, because only hours before I uploaded this previous video about this bug, he had uploaded one himself that basically some guy named Andrew BGM found this bug before me by a matter of like 20 hours. Anyway, he said, should I try to try to use this bug on a T and see what happens to the tracks? Well, I already showed you that, but here it is with the minecart going over it. And I noticed it kind of slows down the minecart. Even though it pops up and starts going downhill, it actually starts going uphill first. So here's a bit of a magnification of that bug. You can see the cart really drastically slows down after enough of these. So there was the first application, a braking system that doesn't completely stop the minecart. But that's kind of lame. You don't really do much with that. I mean, you can make your minecart move slower now. Yay! Okay, so what? So I thought, well, what else can floating tracks do? And I said, well, you can probably use them to make jumps, which you can. For example, if I launch this cart off, it lands on the second track, whereas a cart on the first track, or a cart that doesn't have a jump, just lands on the first track. Of course, add more power rails. And the cart goes farther. Oh, other thing about this bug that's kind of annoying is that the little bits of rail that drop off can land in their track and it'll get your cart stuck. You have to make sure to clean up after yourself. Anyway, as you can see, using different amounts of boosts and slanted or not slanted, you can get farther distances. And This could just be used as a more fun version of a track selector. Obviously there are more practical ways to do it, but not many will launch you through the air. I have not tested loaded and unloaded carts, but I have a suspicion, or I suspect, that a loaded cart will go farther. Because that's been proven before, I just haven't tested it, because, you know, 4 variations is good enough for me. And I tried taking this to another level. Like, I tried building up momentum and trying to launch farther from ground level. I was hoping for one that could jump over a couple spaces, maybe land hereabouts. But from this distance, no matter what momentum, the speed, which is the important part in this actually, is only enough to get it here. Actually, I think I will test a loaded cart, because I'm curious now. Come on. Wait. Oh. Anyone who gets motion sickness may want to look away, because this is kind of wooky. Heck, even I can't do that, never mind. Not when I'm recording, I have no coordination. So this is what I tried making, incorporating this glitch into redstone. And you can see, here's the benchmark, right here, if it wasn't slanted, and here it is, if it is slanted. So there is some promise in launching these. The trouble is, I can't ever seem to get it to switch from slanted to flat without breaking some track somewhere along the line. Well, here's how it's supposed to work. Okay, that was the track resetting. Back down to lower. And if I hit the button again, that was, I don't know if you could catch it because it kind of broke really fast, but that was the track going to slanted. The problem with this is when I want to make this raise up, I have to put a track in the air in front of it, and that'll make it jump up. But if I don't want to have to constantly replace this track or clean fallen tracks off of here, then I need to have a block to place that on. So that's the point of this piston, is to push a block in front so that this track can go on top of that dirt block, and then which will cause this to pop up, and then this can be pulled back and the dirt block can be pulled back. But the problem with this setup is when the dirt block gets pulled back, this track pops. So having the dirt block here breaks this track. So I said, well, what happens if I take the dirt block away? Track reset still works. And the track pop works, except now that track is broken, as opposed to this one. So I have to replace this track, and I have to clean this off of here. So this is where I need you smart people to help me out with. I don't know if it is possible to have this fully automated and not require repair every other time you use it. I'm going to be putting this world up for download so that you can poke around and see what's going on. The redstone's pretty straightforward. Anyone with a little bit of experience should be able to see what's going on there. It's just an alternating pulse generator that switches these two. But if it could work, the rewards would be a choice between jumping short and jumping far. So we'll see about that. The last experiment, I mean, if I could get this to work or if anyone could get this to work for that matter, things like this would be possible. A one wide track junction vertically. Either launch or go straight. One or the other. And the reason this is necessary to have a jump, well first off, a cart will not make this jump. Just hits the dirt block here and falls back down. I can't get enough air for my carts. And having a track at the same level here, if you're wondering why this is dipped, having a track at the same level, even though it doesn't look like it when this track is raised, these tracks are still connected. So the cart doesn't even jump. It just drives right over top of it. So you have to have this dip if you want the cart to jump. As far as I know, though, I can't build enough speed in order to get this to jump high enough. If anyone else is an expert on gaining speed on a minecart and they think they could make that jump, then please do so. I'm hoping that something, at least one or two useful things will come out of this bug, even though it looks like it has so much promise. Finding useful things is not very easy. And the last thing I tried making actually doesn't use the bug at all. I was just seeing if I could make this obsolete by making a piston changer. So basically what it does is it pulls that track out of the way and lifts this track up. Which, well, I'll get into that later, but, and then, move these both over to the right, and you've got a low track, right where you used to have a high track. The reason this doesn't work, though, is because when this piston pulls the track up one block, which usually it can do with no problem, it connects with this track up here, which is kind of necessary. But it connects with this track up here, and then it does an update, and it pops, because it finds out that it's in the air. So much about this bug is fragile, and you have to make sure that it never realizes that it's being held up in the air. So you try to avoid updating that track as much as possible. And it wasn't until I started working with it that I realized there are so many different ways to update it. Even just connecting a track 2 tracks down will update this one, for example, which is unusual compared to most things. Well, I guess that's about it. If anything along here you think you can improve, please do. I want something useful to come out of this. And I guess I'll just finish up this episode with something completely unrelated to tracks. And it's also very noisy and bumpy, and I don't know what's going on, but as always, this is Swingren, and yeah, see ya.